for everybody to be able to just ask some of the doc students from our various programs what program they chose, why they're in it, and how they made the decision, right? There are some of you that are considering a doc program later on, and this is your chance to ask those that are in the program. All right. Are there any questions? No.
Well, I have a question to start off.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Bell. Turn on for a second. I have like about 2 semesters left, and I'm currently a student in the clinical rehabilitation degree program. Nice to meet you all. I'm interested in becoming a member of this organization, and I don't know if you all were going to touch on that, but I would like to get more information on that, and just I'm open to hearing about all of you all's experiences. I'm not currently thinking about moving on to a doctorate program like right after graduation, but I can't say like I never will be open to it.
So you're interested in joining Chi Sig?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm interested in just hearing about all of y'all's experiences.
Okay. Well, let me introduce you to Tristan McKenzie. She is our doctoral president, and she can tell you more about that.
Hi. Yes, Jasmine. For those interested in joining CSI, you should receive an email sometime next week with instructions on how to apply. So if you've been in the program for at least a semester and your GPA is at least, I think it's 3.5, then you should be able to apply. But just be on the lookout for an email from Dr. Cogdell sometime next week.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to start out and have our EDPR reps go ahead and introduce themselves first.
Hi, I know I'm one of them. I'm not sure if the other person is here yet. Hi, everyone. I'm Kishana, and I am here representing the EDPR program. EDPR is Educational Psychology and Research, and I am a PhD student in that program. Let's see, for introduction purposes. I moved to Memphis a few years ago and was interested in going back to school for my PhD. So I researched programs locally and some in other parts, of the country. It did make more sense for my family and I for us to stay local. Wasn't quite sure which program I wanted to apply to, but I came across this particular program at the University of Memphis. And it was an immediate match. I just felt like, yep, this is exactly what I want to study. This is going to give me the opportunities that I want to do. And so specifically, my goal after finishing school is to teach at the college level, hopefully a tenure track position. And so with this particular program, it does allow me to get a lot of experience in research. It is heavy research-based program. So it gives me that experience. It also gives me this opportunity to really hone in specific topics around educational psychology. So really looking at the different aspects of how people learn and what this might mean in schools, what it might mean in communities, what it might mean in families. But then the research aspect of it, it also gives me the opportunity to work as a methodologist later on if I want to have that. And so it's been a really good fit for me, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about EDPR if you have questions about that during the session. Thanks.
And then I think our other one was Denise, and I don't see them here currently. So I will go on to our counseling psych, which is Alex.
Hello, nice to meet everyone virtually. Do you just kind of want me to give an overview of the program?
Yeah, and why you chose it.
Cool, yeah. So I am a Memphis native. I have lived in Memphis for almost 31 years. I received my bachelor's and my master's degree from University of Memphis as well. The main reason I chose counseling psych is for the emphasis on social justice advocacy and also for career flexibility, because with a degree in psychology, you get licensed as a psychologist, and you can do a lot of different things with that licensure, from teaching to clinical practice to testing. So there's a lot of avenues for that. So I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have about the program as well.
Okay, and then from our counselor ed, we have several reps here. We have, start with Chris.
Sure. I'm Chris Todd. I am obviously counselor education and supervision. I'm also a vocational rehab counselor with the state of Tennessee. I got involved in the program originally because I needed some additional courses to finish my CRC, which, if you don't know, stands for Certified Rehabilitation Counselor. Had no interest in the doc program at first, then was told basically, hey, you need to attend the get in the doc program. So thanks to Dr. Zanskis, I have been suffering for the last 3 years. That's not true. I'm enjoying it. I also am looking to do have a faculty position once I finish up. I should graduate in August. This has been a fantastic experience, and I look forward to your questions and to kind of just participate in this roundtable. It's going to be a good opportunity for y'all.
And Keith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Hembry. I'm in my second year, along with Joy and Tristan, in the doc program of Counseling Education and Supervision. What really got me into the doctoral program was my office was next to Dr. Zanskis, and so me and him had a chat. And then, like Chris, he's a very good recruiter and kind of just talks you into, all right, here I am. But really, what kind of got me thinking about it was, before I started with Dr. Zanskis, was I've been in higher ed for 12 years. And trying to do the advocacy of recruiting students into programs and helping them get to college, I realized there were some needs there that I could help with and want to do more research and support and advocacy for students at the high school level as they transition into college. And so I was looking at adding on my school counseling licensure. The doc program allowed me to have that research opportunity to get the licensure, and also have the opportunity, if I wanted to become a professor in school counseling down the line for a university somewhere. Because my wife wants to be a principal, so I figured having that flexibility, not just being tied to higher ed, but also working in the schools or still advocating for students, was a great fit for me.
And Tristan, do you want to speak about yours? Because you looked at multiple programs.
Yes, I did. I had this really long spreadsheet of all these programs and all of what it meant, like a lot of counseling psych programs too, which I was going back and forth about. I graduated from the clinical mental health program, same as Alex, around the same time. And I decided to go back because I wanted to do more research and more advocacy work on a larger scale, like with like licensure laws and those sorts of things. And I want to get my license, obviously, but I also wanted that opportunity to be a professor as well in the future.
And then myself, I came from New Orleans. I have a background in clinical mental health. For me, I wanted to pursue my PhD in counselor education for two reasons. One was I want to be able to teach up and coming counselors. But the other part is I wanted to help affect policy change, and well, having doctor on your name carries stronger weight when you're trying to advocate for things like that. So, did Denise ever come in? I didn't see her.
We have Mary and Ashley too.
Okay, so Mary, I didn't see you. Mary, do you want to speak next?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm in my second semester in the counselor ed program. I'm in LPC already. I've been working in the field for 10 years. Came back because I want to teach at the college master's level counseling too. And yeah, I had a hard time choosing between counselor ed and counseling psych, but I am definitely happy where I am. mainly I ended up going this route because I want to teach counseling over psychology, but it was a hard decision. But I love the program. It's really interesting classes, great professors, a lot of great support, good people. So I'm definitely feeling like it's a good fit for me. Happy to answer any questions.
And then we have Ashley, you said. I am Ashley Bowles. I'm in my second semester of the program. I moved to Memphis in the summer of 2019 to start working at the University Middle School. And I knew when I moved here that I wanted to get into a doctoral program. And like Mary, I was going back and forth between EDPR and the counseling ed program. And because I want to work with high school student athletes preparing for that transition to college, I decided that the counseling ed and supervision program would be best for me because it will allow me to enhance my skills as a school counselor, but also, learn more specifically about counseling and working on the higher ed level. I'm enjoying my first 2 semesters thus far and looking forward to answering any questions that you may have. And for Ashley and Mary, y'all both started during the pandemic, so you have not had the opportunity for any in-person yet. For me, Tristan, and Keith, we had 1.5 semesters of in-person before the world shut down. And Chris had most of his in person, so. But you get some experiences from each person that'll be different in here. So I'm going to open it for questions, and I'm going to start because Jasmine had posted one in here. And I'm going to say this is to Chris because you're the only CRC, unless I'm mistaken. But
I think you're right.
Okay. When you took the exam, how would you speak to that experience and provide some helpful study tips?
So I think that's a great question. So Jasmine, you'll hear that the CRC has a very high failure rate. Let me get that out of the way first, and then tell you it's not nearly that bad. It is really not. You've been in this program. You've had Dr. Z. You've had Dr. West. You're going to do fine. There are 2 books that you can study from. I would go into Dr. West's office and ask him for the real CRC study book. There are 2. Again, he has the better one of those since he's the chair of the CRC committee. Ask him for that. That's what I primarily use to study. There's a couple other aids out there, but between what you've had in class and just the resources that Dr. West or Dr. Z can give you, you're going to be fine. If you want some more specifics, you're welcome to ask me. There's the only hang up is there's a lot of like VR state policy and procedures that are on the test that you may not know because you haven't had the job yet. But those we can, you and I can talk later. And I see another state VR counselor on this call. We can help you kind of talk about some of those policy and procedure things that you may not have gotten in class.
Thank you so much. Would it be okay if I were to email you all, or should I drop my email address?
You're more than welcome to email me. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else want to ask a question?
I had a quick question. So when this is kind of a general question, when y'all were choosing, wanting to go into the doctorate program, how did you find which school you wanted to go to, or like what makes Memphis stand out compared to other schools in that doctorate program?
So for me, because I came from out of state, I wanted a K-CREP school, and we are a K-CREP accredited school. And then it came down to, I initially just knocked out the ones that I was not going to move to, places I was not going. And some of that was financially, they were unrealistic for me to live in. Others, weather, I didn't want to deal with that. But then it came down to talking to the professors. Dr. Zanska was the person that I spoke to for my program as well. And he's very great at making you feel comfortable, at ease, and promoting our program. If you ever have questions, he will sit and answer them as best as possible for you all day long. And I think that was the big key for me, because I had called and spoke to several different universities, and I found that was the most personal experience, when I was looking. And when you're a counselor, that's a big thing for us.
What is CACREP? What is that? I never heard that term before.
It's the accrediting body that makes it much easier for licensure purposes and portability when you're looking at programs. So being in the master's program here in our doctoral program, we are a CACREP accredited school. So when you're looking for doc programs, having graduated from a CACREP school, you have a little bit less hoops to jump through. They set the standard.
Go for it, Alex.
I was just going to say that for counseling psychology, it's a bit different. So counseling psychology programs are not accredited by CACREP. They're accredited by American Psychological Association. So I just wanted to make that differentiation, because it's a little confusing when there's a bunch of different doc programs that sound similar.
Yes, each program has their own accrediting bodies.
I think another reason why I decided to go to U of M is because I knew that I would be funded through a graduate assistantship. If you're a doc student and you need a graduate assistantship, they will find you one. And so that was a positive. I couldn't pay for the school, so I really needed funding. So that was a key. And also the research interests of the faculty aligned with my research interests. And so that's another reason why I decided to stay with the U of M.
I'll also add my voice, even though I didn't really have a choice of where I was going to go, because, well, my wife lives here and she wasn't going to move. One of the things I really appreciate about our faculty is they have all practiced, from the rehab counselors to the CMHs. They have all had experience with real world practice. It's not just academia, and that makes a huge difference. I'm not about to speak for counseling psych, but we have, some of our professors have literally written the book on their area of expertise. We've had the guy that wrote the book on crisis intervention for the counseling program, the guy that literally wrote the book for narrative therapy over in the psychology department. So we have some really, really talented professors in our program. And
Dr. Zanska's even wrote the bill for ADA.
Yep.
So you all look relatively sane, despite the fact that you're killing yourselves working towards a PhD. So Chris invited me today. I've been taking one of his classes on case management, and it's just neat to see that you still have your mental health. I have been terrified of the thought of going to do a PhD, even though I have 27 years of experience as a vocational rehab counselor. So somebody tell me, or anybody tell me, what do they do? Is there any kind of formal torture that you go through to get into the program? How exactly did you get started?
Who wants to start that one?
Go ahead, Ashley.
For the Counseling Ed and Supervision program, we, of course, had to do the application process online, which is, of course, all the transcripts, your short narrative of why you want to earn your doctorate and all of the different paperwork of that nature. But once you were given preliminary acceptance, you had to meet with the program, the people in the program, and give a presentation about what you might want to focus on while you are studying at University of Memphis. So it was creating a presentation on your personal interests that you would likely utilize to study for your dissertation in the future.
That's it. As soon as I went to do the presentation, they'd go get out, forget it. Thank you. That's really helpful. That's really helpful.
We got to do ours via Zoom because of the pandemic, so it wasn't too bad. Those last three questions, I feel like I could kind of touch on in the chat.
Okay.
I am in private practice. I worked 10 years at a behavioral health hospital first, which was very helpful. I don't know that you need to do 10, but you know, time flies. The majority of my clients I get from Psychology Today, and they will give you your first 6 months free. But I am in a group practice and we all refer to each other too. So, you know, I'll see the couple of my colleagues, you know, she sees the wife, or we'll, you know, each see a sibling, or I'm trained in EMDR, so I'll do EMDR with some of their clients. So I think being in a group is helpful, but Psychology Today has been really helpful for me, at least in the Memphis area. And with the pandemic, there's been no shortage of clients, that's for sure. Everybody needs help right now, of course. Working on licensure requirements, I'm already licensed, but there are several people in our program that are working towards licensure. Obviously, prac and internship help. But just, you know, most of us are still working in the program, and the counselor ed program is very supportive of that. The last question is about small children. I have my daughter turned 4 yesterday. So I think it's just a balance of, you know, prioritizing, getting a very strict routine. My first semester was not too overwhelming for me. This semester is a lot more challenging just because the classes I'm taking are a lot harder, but I've just had to be very strict about my routine and how I spend my time. And I'm in private practice. I have a GA. I'm in practicum this semester, and I have a 4-year-old. So, I mean, it is juggle for sure.
Wow.
But you just do it, and I'm really enjoying it, and I like the challenge. So.
Also in the chat, Marcy had asked, what are the benefits of a doctoral degree?
None. Okay, that's not true.
I could probably touch on that too, because I'm already fully licensed and I'm a board approved supervisor. So I want that because I want to teach. And that's definitely a leg up, especially if you want to teach full time. Plus, I think it's just helpful to, you know, get more experience, get more education. You know, I think a lot of us are lifelong learners, and it sounds a little crazy, but I like school. So.
And I think that's one of those questions that depends on what you want to do once you earn your doctorate. For me, I don't necessarily need a doctorate degree, but I also know that in wanting to be someone who essentially contracts out to different school districts or whatever it may be, even universities, with respect to building up their student athlete population, having the title of doctor it speaks. So it really just matters on what your plan is once you earn that doctorate.
Right. For me, it carries weight to help with the research and what I'd like to accomplish in the field.
It also helps you just grow your connections in general, because you're just going to meet so many people in the program, whether it be professors or even students, and just the networking and being able to meet so many different people, and like even meeting people from different programs. I think that's really beneficial to expand your circle.
I can touch on a little bit on a lot of the topics that y'all have kind of talked about, since counseling psychology is a little different, I guess, from counselor ed. But one of the other reasons I chose the program at Memphis specifically was because of my exposure to the faculty and the other students. So it moves in a cohort model. So who you get accepted with, you move with them through the program. And so that was really appealing to me because I found the support from my classmates in the master's program to be really helpful. And also the support that you get from the faculty is really, really great. They're really invested and really interested in not only your academic success, but your well-being and your personal success as well. So I found that to be a nice fit for me. As far as I think someone had asked about children, small children and then family. So part of the program, it's if you enter with the master's, it's a 4-year program. So you do 3 years of coursework and 1 year of internship. If you enter with the bachelor's, it's 5, so 4 years of coursework and 1 year of internship. And so that internship piece is actually part of the program that made me a little hesitant because it could mean that you move. You really do get placed with your internship site. You get a choice in where you apply to, but ultimately there's a system for matching. And so where you get matched is where you go. And that could mean that you do have to move. And if that's not something you're interested in because of your family or because you're rooted here and you don't want to leave, just as a heads up, that's part of the process.
And then Kishana with EDPR.
Yeah, so with EDPR, it's not a cohort model, and we don't have you don't have to follow a certain kind of process. You really can do it the way that you need to do it. We don't have to do an internship or anything like that. So it's you can be a part-time student. You can take one course a semester if you want to. We definitely do have students who do that. They may take one in the fall, one in the spring, and one in the summer. Then we have students who take 4 a semester, so it just kind of depends. I've always worked full-time, and so I have taken mostly 2 a semester. One time I took 3. And I'm also a mom of 3 children. And so I found, the 2 classes seem to fit what I've got going on with my life, working full time and with kids. That seemed to fit pretty well. And so with EDPR, you really can figure things out however you need to do it. And I do like that about the program. It's super flexible and the professors will work with you. And there's several of us who are students who kind of came back to school. So I can also kind of speak to that. If you're someone, who hasn't been in school in a while. When I started back a few years ago, I realized that it had been 15 years, since I had completed my master's degree. And that was a little intimidating at first, so many things had changed. Of course, technology, and then just whatever was the newest thing 15 years ago is no longer the newest thing, right? So it was a lot of relearning things. But it didn't take too long to get back into the swing of things. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're someone who you've been wanting to do this, you've been out of school for a while, or maybe you're trying to wonder how to get it done. I just want to encourage you that you definitely can do it.
And then
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You want to?
I was just going to add that because that reminded me that for counseling, there is the requirement that you're full-time. You do get funding. So you are placed in a research assistantship or a graduate assistantship of some sort, but they do require that you take 12 hours a semester and 3 hours in the summer. And part of that is practicum, which you'll start within your first year in the program, but that might also not be conducive to someone who needs to work part-time or full-time. They strongly discourage having a part-time job outside of the GA or the RA. And so some students find time to do that. I do not know how because it is really busy, but yeah, just as another consideration.
And then answering that, for Counselor Ed, I am working on my GA as well here, so the school helps fund that. But I also work part-time. With our program, full-time is 9 hours. So that's 3 classes, but you're not required to do that. If you choose to do a part-time you can go to classes part-time. They're really flexible. I see Paul asked, what's the challenging experience transitioning from master to PhD? For me, actually, it was accepting the fact that they're here more to help you succeed. Whereas in my master's, the program that I went to was kind of rigid and making sure that you did not pass if you weren't going to be a good counselor. Here, it's all about making sure that you succeed. And that means you learn to reach out and ask for help, which is hard for most of us.
Yeah, Joy, to add to that, I think, like for me, I found the master's program actually more difficult overall than the doc program has been. Not that the workload's been more difficult. It's just the way that my brain works. It's been easier in the doc program. And someone said earlier, the cohort model that we most of these programs use has been really helpful for me in organizing and getting that peer support that's been important. So the most challenging thing for me has been organization. As I've told both of the classes that I'm teaching, organization is not my strong suit. And so being organized just being better organized has been the most challenging part.
And then, Chris, did you want to answer Denzel's question?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yeah, Denzel, I'd seen that and I just forgot. So if you want to take your CRC, I would say you need to make a happy medium. So there's pros and cons to just doing it right after you have school because you've had all the education, but you want to have the practical experience. So some of the policies and procedures you may not know. If you wait about a semester or two once you graduate and you've been working, you'll have the policies and procedures down, but you might start losing some of the academic stuff. So just meeting that happy medium. One of the young ladies I work with in the state, she took hers right after she graduated from Mississippi State and failed it. Smart individual. Took it a year later and passed it easily. I was working for a year, but I passed it fairly easily. So you need to meet that happy medium. Again, there are ways to address both deficits if you wait or do it right away.
And Josie said, what are the pros and cons for those who went into a program right after getting their master's versus those who waited?
I can speak to that a little because I debated on whether or not to get my license first. And I definitely see those benefits of getting your license first, just due to the experience alone. I know for me personally, I went straight from my master's to the doc program. And my GA from the master's said I could stay. And so I automatically knew I was going to get funded. And also I was just already in the just like higher ed, like learning frame of mind. And my thought was if I don't do it now, like I won't. But I know that's different for everyone. And so I think knowing yourself and whether or not you think that going now will be the best choice for you, because it is different for everyone. And there are pros and cons for going right after and then also waiting and getting that experience, which is extremely valuable too.
And I'll speak to that. I waited 6 years after my master's to pursue my doctorate because I did want to have that time to experience the field. I am a school counselor by trade. So, and being able to do that while not going to school, and being able to enjoy life in general without school for just a little while. But it's like Tristan said, it is different from everyone. I took a break after each degree. So I'm one of those that after I do it, I'm like, okay, that I did it, great, I need a break, and maybe I'll try it again in the future. But you have to definitely decide what's going to be best for you and your mental health.
I would say between my obtaining my bachelor's and graduating high school, there was an 8-year gap for me. So going into my master's and moving into a doc program, I felt I was comfortable with that. I already had the momentum of being in a graduate program, so that was helpful. And having that gap previously, I was ready. I'm ready to kind of just be done with with school. So it wasn't much of a challenge for me, I guess.
Hey,
So
Joy.
for those of y'all, oh sorry, who are school counselors, that's what I'm wanting to do. I'm actually in Professor Hutchison. She's my teacher or my professor for my intro to counseling class. And I just kind of wanted to know like what y'all's thoughts are with like getting your doctorate versus just stopping after your master's, because I haven't decided yet. I know I want to get my master's, but I haven't decided yet with my doctorate. Thank you.
So I actually started working in a school my final year of my master's program. So this is now my 7th year as a school counselor. So you can be very successful as a school counselor without a doctoral degree. But if you're wanting to do something additional, such as teach on the collegiate level and things of that nature, then you may want to consider a doctorate, but it's definitely not necessary, but it does enhance your toolbox for sure.
And another piece with the school counseling thing is, as Ashley well knows, is if you get a doctorate degree, you get more money. So also the way the pay scales is in the school districts on the state, you can actually make more money by having a PhD, but also it allows you, I know they're very limited in the roles, you can actually become the supervisor of the counselors with a PhD. And also a lot of our school counselors with PhDs in the Memphis area actually help teach some of the courses. So a lot of your practicum or internship professors are actually counselors in Shelby County schools, Lakeland, Collierville, et cetera. So a lot of our school districts actually hire a lot of our graduates of school counseling that do this PhD program in counseling and psych. They look for them for leadership and administrative roles in the district. One thing I would say is kind of talking to the faculty. I really talked to Dr. Brasfield, who's in charge of the school counseling program. She's actually my advisor for the doctoral program. And because of my interest, you're matched with an advisor, and that's your crutch to lean on. I know we said a lot about Dr. Zanskis, he's great, but your advisor, you have, some of us have Dr. Zanskis for an advisor, but Dr. Brasfield's mine. And when I'm doing my plan of study for school counseling, she's kind of helped me, okay, Keith, I need you to teach this course. I need you to help me with this, to help teach the master students by doing this extra work for the class to help make it better where the master students learn. So it's really important to ask questions. And I put the CEPR website on there. Look at the faculty. And if you're kind of between EDPR, counseling psych, counseling ed, email the faculty. They'll always willing to email you back, have a Zoom meeting with you now. They used to be able to meet with you in person, but now a Zoom meeting, and talk with them on what you're trying to do. Me and Dr. Braswell talked many times before I even applied for the program about what I was trying to do and why this approach was best for me, because there is the dissertation piece, but Dr. Zanskis has been really great about talking us through that piece where it can seem like a daunting task. But if you really think about it and look at it and break it down, it's not as complex as you think it is, and you can do this. And he kind of shares his experience, but talking to our faculty is the best recruiter. So we have the coordinators, but I'll also, if you see a faculty member, reach out to them. They'll love to talk with you about any of the programs, and they're there to help you and support you any way that they can.
I did the same with Patrick Murphy, and he was super helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point, Keith. I did the same with Dr. Lease and talked with her a few times when I was deciding between all the different programs, and it was really, really helpful and ended up kind of swaying me in the counseling psych direction. So
I did the same thing. I spoke with Dr. Cogdell and Dr. Burgess, so definitely lean on them, and they will meet with you and talk with you for hours and hours on end and give you all the information and answer all of your questions.
Do any of you have any experience working with athletes?
no, but we have two students in my cohort who are interested in sports psychology, and there is also a staff psychologist at the counseling center on campus who specializes in sports psychology as well.
Okay. I've not worked with athletes. I've worked with them in a life coach manner. I worked with athletes at a college in North Carolina. But yes, and you can work with athletes and work out of any of those areas. You could go through CEPR, you could go through counseling psych, you could go through counseling ed. You can find a path to working with athlete choosing anyway.
Okay, because the question is, what classes would anybody recommend if that's where their interest lies? Which
I don't know
I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any like specific athletic courses, honestly.
I know we have some sports medicine classes, and for your electives, you can go outside of your department. You just have to get it approved by your advisor.
I would say maybe try to find like a practicum or internship experience that's working with athletes. And if we don't, like if there's not an agreement with that site, then all you have to do is get an agreement or affiliation. So.
Right, and they'll walk you through what you need to do to help that site get affiliated for you. And then the last question was, what can I do in my master's to make me a good candidate for the doc program?
I can speak on that for a minute. I think it also answers what made you feel, or what do you feel made you stand out from other candidates as well. I think my relationship with the faculty was a big piece, and the current students as well. I was on a couple of research teams in the counseling psych department when I was completing my master's. I think also my practicum and internship placements were I was at the counseling center on campus, and that's an APA accredited site, so that obviously looked good. I think also I was the former president of CSI, so just like really being an active person on campus and the department, I think made a big difference for me.
And I can talk about my program. I just worked during my master's to try to find some research experience. And that can be limited, as a master's students, but it just shows that you are taking initiative and that you're trying to connect with, professors who are doing this work, especially if you're going to go into a research-based program. Like, that's really great if you can get some experience as a master's student.
I think also joining a professional organization can kind of get you linked in. It could kind of be a way for you to kind of find out more information on things that you might want to know, but also a way for you to show that you're interested in the field.
Right. And anyone who's in the master's program now, joining Chi Sig, we do have resources to help you and with your application and even stuff like that to help you stand out.
And I also think like you're here, and that's like a first step. Like, you are going to events and you're paying attention to what professors send out about opportunities to either meet other people or volunteer in whatever capacity that may be. And just like, don't disregard all of the thousands of emails that we get. If there's something that's interesting to you, just make sure you take note of that and follow through with it.
And Mary put in there, West Tennessee Counseling Association is a great one to join that's local, and also just Tennessee Counseling Association overall, and being active in whatever your discipline is helps out.
I would also say, if you're very interested in a particular topic, like say, like for instance, if you're really interested in trauma, to focus on that, because I'm one of those people who's interested in a lot of different things, and so it's really hard for me. But if you have that niche and you can really speak to that and show that you're passionate about it, that really goes far.
Also, if you have an interest like that aligns with a professor in a current program, joining with them and working with them is a really good way to network and get to know professors and other students.
I have a question. Can the different programs, especially the counseling psych and the counselor educator doc programs, talk a little bit about like the dissertation requirements for each program and what that's like and the expectations?
So dissertation is a scary thing for most people when you're thinking about it because you're writing like a book. But at least in our program for counselor ed, I've found that your professors try to make sure that you point yourself in aligning all of your research interests throughout your program to help feed and get that dissertation rolling. So you're not researching, gender dysphoria in one semester and then going off into, first responders or something else completely opposite in a different semester. They promote you trying to feed it all together to make it less scary. Is that answering the question?
Yeah, thanks. So do you by the time you graduate, you're supposed to have kind of your dissertation complete as well, and that's like how significant of a part for the program is that?
You don't graduate without your dissertation being defended.
Mhm.
So for counseling psych, like most everything else, it's pretty structured. They have like a semester where you will start working on your dissertation. You'll take a class that is geared toward collecting research and really focusing on that. And then you take 9 hours over like the last year, I believe, of your coursework of dissertation credit. And so that's the time you'll spend formulating and proposing, which is like pitching your dissertation to the faculty, and then they just wreck you and tell you what's wrong with it and ask a bunch of questions. And then you can start, submitting for, after you navigate through that and are approved, you submit your IRB and then can start your dissertation. But generally, they like to see students at least propose and begin data collection prior to leaving for internship. And if you can get it all done before that, they really love that. So it's really structured and kind of how you move through the program and when you start your dissertation. And I'm only in my first year, but from feedback from other students, there seems to be a consensus among them of feeling supported and guided a little bit in that process.
Thank you.
So for counselor education, I'll go back to that. Much like counseling psych, we actually we have 2 classes that are geared towards writing research for your dissertation. The first is your research residency class, and it's done usually the semester before you're going to start your research seminar class. Both prepare you for writing that dissertation. The work I did in my research residency literally wrote my first chapter for my dissertation. So that's really helpful. You'll work really closely with your chair. Just listen to the feedback. And what really has helped me in writing mine is not looking at it as a huge, 150-page paper. Because you do that, you're done. You're going to quit. What I've looked at it as is, a couple, like 120-page paper at a time. My introduction is 20 pages. My lit review is 20 whatever pages. And just knocking it out a couple months at a time. And that's been really helpful in my writing. Just to chunk it up.
Kishana, do y'all have a dissertation for yours as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I think one thing that's really helpful in our program is that one of the first courses that you'll take is our professional seminar course. And so in this course, it's basically a course on how to be a PhD student. And so we go over like all the journals that you should, follow. We go over how to write a grant, all the different things that are important. So like, depending on your goals for after graduation, we go over, how to how to store your different articles that you come across, like how to do APA style. So just everything, basically how to be a student. And so what I was going to say, what Chris was saying, that definitely resonated. It's like taking it little by little, right? So don't just go into it thinking, oh my gosh, in 4 years or 5 years or however many years, I'm going to have to write this long, research paper. No, just do one thing at a time, do the application, reach out to the professors. You take your courses, and remember, these are topics that you're into. You want to learn about these things, right? And so for me, it was exciting. I looked at the courses. I was like, oh my God, I get to nerd out. I get to sit here in this class and I get to engage, on these topics, on these questions. I can, not just be a mom for this, 3 hours or whatever, right? Like I'm intellectually being stimulated, right? So in these courses, the work that you do and what you're talking about and what you're learning about, it should be exciting. Like it should be something that makes you happy, right? So that you do your courses and everything, right? And so then by then, if you're reading a lot and if you're studying by then, you should have a question. You should really say, we've been reading about this, we've been studying, but I'm wondering about this. Is there more things out there about this, right? And so your advisor and your peers will help you to kind of get this question. And then by that time, you really will be excited to let's get this done. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready now to enter this field. I've been reading what other people have been writing. It's time for me to write. It's time for me to add what I know and to create this new knowledge and everything. And so I really do feel like if you do this work, that you'll be ready. You might still be a little bit intimidated, but like Chris said, you just do it little by little, and you'll get it done. But by that point, it really should be something that you feel like you're ready to do.
And during all of that, you're not alone. You have the support of your committee, right? Your professors, what I said earlier is they're there to help you succeed. So they are going to point you and ask the hard questions to make sure that you're ready to go up and propose and you're ready to, when it's time to defend. So it's not a one person on an island program.
And Joy, one final thought on that is not as much that your professors, my peers, my members of my own cohort, members of the cohort in front of me, the members of the cohort behind me, have been absolutely instrumental in forming my thought process around my dissertation, around just my research agenda in general. And once you're at the doc program level, I really do believe, at least my experience has been, your peers want to help you because it's good for them and it's good for you. Like we really do treat one another, at least in counselor ed. I don't know about psych and EDPR, but we really do treat one another as a family. We really, really do. And that's been a good part of my experience.
Yeah, we all talk to each other often.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that was really appealing about counseling psych was just kind of, it felt so supportive and welcoming. And I think in a lot of other counseling psych and clinical psych programs, it can get really competitive. Like the students are competing against each other. And I didn't find that Memphis program was like that. I felt like it was really welcoming. And that was really appealing to me.
You guys are very encouraging. I feel less fear. Thank you.
Are dissertations necessary to succeed in the field of working? At a master's level, they're not needed. The only way you're going to have that PhD behind your name is once you've defended your dissertation. Other than that, you're what they call an ABD, all but dissertation, which means you're not a doctor.
However, if you do want to become a faculty, I do know a little bit about this, is that you have to continue to do research. That's part of your process of being a faculty member. And you come in as an assistant professor and you have 6 years to do different things as part of a rubric thing that the chair will go with you and your department head, and you have to do in research. So dissertation is just a piece. You continuously do research. But the cool thing about being a faculty member is you get to set your class schedule and then also get to figure out what days you come into the office and just study for research. So you get to do that, and you may have a research assistant and maybe another doctoral student, And if you find the right faculty member, you may actually tag along on their research that they're doing for their stuff, and then you do your research, and then you both kind of have multiple articles and dissertations from that piece.
I think a big difference between like the master's versus the doctoral program is that you are like creating something that's yours. Like you have to come up with your own ideas and see that through. Whereas like in the master's program, like sure, I can do some research about like borderline personality disorder, but I'm not like coming up with anything new. I'm just researching what has already been done. And so it's more about seeing the need, where's the limitations, and adding to that field of knowledge.
I think I joined the meeting in the middle of like the person explaining the EDPR program. So I was wondering if it's okay for you to go over that just one more time, because I'm not as familiar with that program.
Did you say EDPR? You did?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, sure. So that's educational psychology and research. And so in this program, people tend to kind of choose to focus more on either the ed psych part of the program or the ed research part of the program, just a little bit. Okay, you definitely will take courses and do work in both, but you tend to kind of be one of the other. And then within the ed research part, you tend to focus on either quantitative research or qualitative research. And so people who want to maybe potentially work as a methodologist at the university level or at a district, or, you know, in some other kind of like private organization that does research, you know, this program would really be beneficial for you because you're learning all the different methods and methodology around research. And so we actually have a lot of students from all over the university that will come and take our research methods courses with us, because some of our professors are like the only ones that do certain kinds of research across the university. So people will come. And so I've actually worked with PhD students from all disciplines because they come and take the courses with us. But it's also, I look at it as kind of like a broader type of PhD, because when I'm looking at jobs that are being advertised at the university level, you know, a lot of like in the colleges of education, educational psychology will often be one of the little like terms of blurbs that will be in the parentheses, right? Where it's like, the job may be in urban ed, or the job may be in special ed, or the job may be in ed leadership, but educational psychology might be one of the things where they'll consider, you know, that degree as well. But it's all about, we're looking at like cognition, we're looking at motivation, we're looking at just all the different factors that contribute to how students and adults, elders, how we learn, how we interact with our world. And so it's been a great experience. But the methodology part for me has been super exciting, right? So it's like really learning in depth all the different ways that we can conduct research, no matter what your discipline is. I hope that helps. I'm happy to talk more about it or talk more individually about it as well.
Yeah, thank you. That really does help a lot. I appreciate it.
And Tristan pointed out in the chat that for counselor ed, we're required to take 4 EDPR classes as a minimum. That's our required courses. We can take more as electives if that's what we choose, but we're required for 4. Same for counseling psych. Did anybody else have any questions? Well, if there are no other questions, I know it was put in the chat earlier by Keith, how to look up the departments and compare the programs and see faculty. If you wanted to ask more questions, you can always reach out to the faculty. As you can hear from everyone in here, the faculty are really easy to ask questions. They're quick to answer. You don't wait for days and days and days. They're pretty responsive, and they're here to help as much as possible. But if there's no more questions, thank you for coming. And we look forward to seeing your applications, and you starting the program soon. Bye.
Thanks for putting this on, guys.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.